By George, I think I've got it.
Hybrothetical Thinking.
I saw that Bigfoot walking across the screen and I thought to myself, wow, they are real.
I ask us all, is that really reasonable?
Hybrothetical Thinking.
My personal belief is that there is very compelling evidence that we may not be alone.
I'll show you a little of the evidence.
Hybrothetical Thinking.
Researchers at Stanford University School of Medicine have pioneered a cancer vaccine that eliminated all traces of cancer in mice.
You could find evidence of that, my friends. You could change the world.
Hybrothetical Thinking, a podcast for the hypothetical thinker.
Greetings, travelers, and welcome to Hybrothetical Thinking, a semi-informative squadcast that explores the journey from probability into Johnny's little iris inside that little brown eye he calls his butthole.
Wait, what? What?
I don't know.
No, iris in my butt?
It's fine.
I was so excited about that. And you
Iris.
changed it. Yeah, my eye.
I had a neighbor named Iris once.
Oh, that's cool.
My name is Nick Floyd, and I'm joined by my co-hosts.
Taylor Nelsonian Maximus.
I'm Johnny.
He is, and he always will be. And the way this works is that either Taylor or myself will do the research for our weekly episodes, and Johnny, sweet headphone-wearing, hat, snapback, shirt, t-shirt, and pajama pants-wearing fella, Jonathan goes into every episode. Damn it! He goes into every episode completely blind, meaning he has no idea what we're covering each week. And you know what? I bet you're asking yourself, how blind is he? I'll tell you how blind he is.
How blind am I?
He's just about as blind
Okay.
as a snake in the daytime.
What?
Anyway, today's a very special day. Not only are we going to be covering one of my favorite topics of all time, but we are joined by our first and probably last guest ever.
What?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome to the podcast butt plug enthusiast Daniel Coughlin and his fantastic German girlfriend, Dr. Hanah P. Kother.
It's a hard name. It's a hard, Kother.
She's German.
Hanah Kother.
Kuta. We got
Kuta.
it.
Hanah
Say hi, guys.
Kuta.
Hi.
Can we talk now?
Yeah, you talk now, Danny, so say hi. Yeah, you can talk.
I blacked out for that entire
Initiate,
introduction.
talk
I was so excited. .exe.
Okay,
Hi.
Hanah, how do you
Package.
pronounce your last name?
Kuta.
Kuta.
Danny, after 1 year of relationship, he still doesn't know how to pronounce my last name,
Kuta.
so...
Say his last name.
It's so
you're all
it's
good.
bogus because it's like, all right, I'll say it. Kuta.
Nailed it.
That was actually perfect.
Okay, well, good. I mean, we dated for a year. But it got to a while, she was like, Kota. And I was like, Kota. She was like, no, that's not it. I'm like, how the hell is that not it? It's the same exact thing. It's so obnoxious.
We would literally do that for like 20 minutes.
It's like, imagine if I had someone else, and then I was like, my name's Danny, and they're like, Danny, and I'm like, no, it's not. It's
Danny.
Yeah, go, it's Annie. We just don't care about that
It's
kind
a
of stuff.
silent D.
Nah.
It's fine.
Annie.
Hi.
Annie.
How you guys doing today? Taylor, why don't you start? How you doing?
How am I doing? I'm doing pretty good. I had some good work this week. Once again, I shot some kick-ass acoustic sessions that the world will be blown away by.
Fuck yeah!
Other than that, I just ate some food and slept some. How about you guys?
Yeah, dude. Dude, I'm doing hella good. It is so good to not only have Taylor, you in a different location, but I got Hanah and Danny here. It's crazy. Blowing my freaking mind.
I know.
I love it. It's actually so weird to hear Nick, Taylor, and then two other people in my eardrums, like at the same. It's
In
like
your brain hole.
in my brain.
I didn't think I could feel more alone, you know, when we're recording a podcast.
Until
but
now.
Because you guys at
the
home,
ratio
Danny,
makes me feel more alone.
It's so sad.
Danny and Hanah are here at our studio, so it's Nick, myself, Danny, and Hanah, and Taylor is still not in the office, so he feels super alone right now.
I mean, it's even weirder for me because I'm a friggin' Hybrothetical super fan. I've been listening every single episode. I'm pretty sure I was the first person to get the raw copy of the first episode. So being here and hearing your guys' voices and me being a part of it is absolutely
Danny,
What?
can you tell our
What?
listeners, you know, they're probably wondering, God, who is this guy? I know this guy from somewhere. I know this voice. They want to know your face. Where can they see your face? They know you. You're connected to a Hybro post.
Somehow.
Oh.
I'm an unknown highbrow bro. You guys might recognize me from my infamous secret hybrothetical unboxing.
Butt plug.
Which I unboxed a metallic device used for suppository reasons, aka a butt plug.
The butt plug.
Boot is the
As a boot plug.
It's on Facebook. Go check out the video. It's
Hannah. How do you say
hilarious.
butt plug in German?
I have actually no idea.
Holy
Yeah,
shit!
she's lying.
That
Lies.
has to be a lie. It has to be.
I have literally no
How do you
idea.
Don't
say
they
butt?
teach you that in
How do you say
school?
I say,
Ash.
Ash?
and how you say
Ashplug.
Phil.
They're like
Phil.
it's in English. There are like a million ways to say
Right.
but booty.
Booty
well,
plug.
Booty.
Ash,
How do you say plug?
like a light switch.
Stopfen.
Like if you were to plug something.
Ashstocken.
Stopfen. Yeah, but
Schnupp.
I don't think that's actually a word. So
Yeah.
Butt receptacle.
Yeah.
I like the ash token.
It's slang.
Ass token.
Okay.
Sounds like a Saturday night to me, buddy.
that's
For
beautiful.
the butt arcade.
Danny, Hannah, how are you guys doing? That's important. We need to know that. How are you both
Our relationship?
doing? No. Just in general. How you
Tell
doing?
us the ups, tell us the downs.
The ups and downs of our relationship. Well, Hannah lives over in Germany, and I'm over in a more unknown place called Connecticut, USA. And so our relationship is overseas. Hannah's been in America for about a month and a half now, but she leaves to go back home for about a year and like 4
A
days.
year?
So,
Holy
I
shit.
don't think I'll be
Yeah.
back before then, but then he's gonna be back.
I'll be back.
yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be a sad episode.
They
So,
always come back.
Man.
They're so strong. This is
They
a strong
do.
relationship. It's badass.
Well, you know what?
Yeah, we're-
I have something that's going to brighten both of your days right now.
Probably not.
I know I feel like it will. And you know what that is? That's Taylor with some news. Taylor, hit it with some news.
Okay, I'm going to get you with some news. Here we go, guys. The newly unveiled Hybro Sports Update.
Oh, damn it.
Guys, this was
Breaking
gonna be
news.
just some regular news, but I was running around on the Googles today, and actually I was on my Instagrams, and I got hit with some crazy news that I know you guys want Johnny to know. So,
No.
last weekend, Johnny, our pal Josef Martinez tied the MLS record for most goals scored in a single season with 27.
Is he in the Atlanta United?
Well, that's a good guess, Johnny. He is on ATLU.
Wow.
So,
Oh, look at that.
Roy
So
Laster,
fascinating.
Chris Wondolowski, and Bradley Wright Phillips all took an entire season to reach this feat. Martinez and the legendary team still have 8 games to go before he fucking demolishes this record. But you know what's even fucking crazier than this?
No, tell me what's crazy.
Let me tell you what's fucking
What's
crazy.
crazier?
Tonight,
Give me an example.
Tonight, Atlanta is playing Orlando. Okay, tonight is actually
Okay.
Friday because we record on Fridays, guys. Sorry, bust your bubble.
Do we though?
We are today.
no.
I don't know. It's Friday,
Okay.
I think. So
Friday.
ATLU plays Orlando tonight. I was keeping up with the score as we were getting set up. You know, hey, what's going to happen? Maybe he'll score. Yeah, he fucking scored. So we have the all-time leading goal scorer in the MLS for a single season on our team right now. Fuck you, Johnny.
Well, I'm so happy for you, Taylor, but once again, I don't give it two
I feel like the more
shits.
you talk about this, the less he cares.
Yeah, I do. I was so
So
like,
you're achieving
I was-
what you don't want to
you
achieve.
became what you want to destroy.
I disagree.
Taylor, well, I was in Atlanta about 6 months ago at the stadium, and I was like, this is a super cool Mercedes-Benz stadium. Months later, you're so hooked on it. Taylor, like, I don't give a shit. But I implore the idea that you really like it, and therefore, Taylor, I love you, man. I'm glad you like it, but I don't give a shit.
People don't
you heard
listen
it
to him.
first.
He cares so deeply about this. He's going
Okay,
to
I go
text
home
me
and write about
later,
it.
and he's like, dude, forgive me for everything I say about ATLU. Like, I'm fucking sorry, man. I want to be a fan
my fucking
too, but
idol.
I can't. You know, because he's he likes like football. I don't know what it is.
Whatever.
Football.
Either way, let's get to the real news today, guys.
Oh, that wasn't the real news.
No, that was a Hybro Sports update.
You don't flip the script on me.
All right, so here's the news for the day. The newly unveiled Yuri Trottoir is a French portmanteau consisting of the words pavement and urinal. Now, for those of you who don't know what a portmanteau is, it's when you combine the sounds of 2 words to make a completely new word. Like,
Like dong tag.
Butthole.
But I don't know if maybe butthole would work, but I'm thinking more like a spork. Like you take a spoon and a fork and you got a spork.
Oh.
Or you take smoke and fog and you got smog.
Like crunch.
Chihuahua ramium.
That's nice.
That's triple portman
Is that
now.
a Mexican mythical creature?
They're proven to just be wolves. But so in Paris, France, they have recently tested and unveiled for some reason only 4 new public urinals. Basically, they look like a Redbox rental station that you could be in, but instead of depositing money and getting a DVD, you put your pee in it.
No, what?
You put your pee in it.
Yeah.
Monsieur, that's crazy.
Danny loves it already.
I'm not saying
He's
you
all
get a
about it. He
DVD
goes
rental
random
out of it,
places.
but
Shit.
that would be tight.
What do you get out of it?
It's basically just a big red box in a
Yellow
public
box.
space that you can pee in.
Oh, wait, I've done
That's
that.
it.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, yeah, Taylor, yeah, before, no, sports update. When I was in England at a Manchester United game, there were these different, like stations where, just random blokes would come up and piss in this little, essentially a trough, but it was like a big box, in just, on the street. And it's weird. You go walk up to it, and there's, a random townie and a random English person, or I guess not French person, just taking a piss. I thought the whole purpose of this was to get a movie out of it. But now that's normal. I've seen that before.
What?
I've seen it.
So where you're talking was in England or whatever?
England, yes.
And it's completely
Manchester.
open. It's not closed in. You don't walk in like
Taylor.
a phone booth?
Taylor, I walk up to this thing. My whole body is exposed. Only thing's not exposed is, basically what I keep in my pants, which is nothing. I just take my pants off.
Danny can say too, but in Australia, there was a town I went in, and you hit a button, and the door, opens, and then it closes behind you. It's like, hello, and welcome to the Baba Potty. Please,
take your pants
if
off.
you take longer than 2 minutes, the door will open. Thank you. And then it starts playing fucking jazz music.
Wipe so fast.
Where did you go?
It was
They had those
Where were you
in Portland,
pissing?
actually.
Where were you pissing?
What kind of Lord and Taylor bathroom did you go into? that they had automatic AI systems. I just pee on the street.
No, Taylor, those exist. I thought,
Well,
sorry,
what the
dude.
fuck, Paris? This is not news, Paris. Gosh darn.
I'll tell you what, I don't want to piss on any of our French, listeners, but when I was in Paris, the idea of sewage and it was they were up to code.
Well, I started thinking about it. I was like, is it even illegal to fucking pee on the street? Where else are you supposed to fucking pee? So apparently, I looked it up. It's illegal in all 50 states to pee in public, right? But I found that in England, I don't know if this is London or exactly where, but somewhere over there in Britain,
Cockfosters.
it's legal for a man to urinate in public as long as it is against the rear offside wheel of his motor vehicle and his right hand is touching the vehicle.
What?
Yeah, dude.
Nick just coughed up water. What the fuck? What a bizarre rule.
And it is also legal for a pregnant woman to urinate as long as it is inside of a policeman's helmet.
What?
Right?
That one was a little too much.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
I don't know.
No, wait, I get it. That makes sense to me because I would imagine if you accidentally pee, you could have the baby come out and a policeman's helmet
Can
is the
just
safe
catch
place.
it.
It could catch it.
It's
am I
a
right?
protective
That's how
law.
they
That's a
get
good
it.
catch.
Trying to
Danny.
save
That's
the
a good catch.
babies.
You can't
But then
risk
people
it.
are going to be all around England, just trying to get impregnated, trying to prove they have a baby in there, just to piss and
Just
butt.
no
so
one's
they can
gonna-
pee in a
There's not
policeman's
going to be a
helmet?
fucking pact.
Yeah, dude.
Excuse me, constable.
Imagine that.
I need to take a wee.
Constable.
Please tip your hat for me.
Piss your hat.
Tip your hat so I may gently put my stream in it.
And then,
Susie, is that you?
then you just
I
have
know
all
you
these,
fucked just to piss in my helmet.
Only 9 out of 10 actually are pregnant. The one is just someone that gotta go.
Oh my god.
That's fascinating.
and that's the news.
And this has been Taylor with the Friday news. Wow, I feel enlightened. Not as enlightened as usual, but also still very enlightened in a very uncomfortable
Yeah.
way.
I just remembered I have ADD, so I gotta pay attention real hard.
Hannah, how do you feel about that whole topic? What's Germany got?
It sounds great,
What's Germany
but
got?
I do feel like I don't think you can pee in public, but it's all I know.
Do they have a sex registry in Germany?
A what?
It's where they a list they put their pedophiles on. 'Cause
though?
If
What?
you pee in America, I would imagine you get on the sex registry.
Oh, you mean like a sex offender?
Well, that's one thing that you can be afraid of, I guess, in the United States. If you're peeing near a school or peeing near kids, then you're exposing yourself in public
Yeah.
in front of kids.
Yeah.
Like, don't
one of my
pee at
buddies-
a public park or whatever.
One of
Right.
my
Yeah,
buddies growing up
don't pee
in high
on
school,
the swing.
he tried to pull a prank on my other friend and pissed on his tire. The school put him on a sex offenders list.
Yeah.
So every time he goes to a new place, he has to say, "Hi, I'm blank name, and I'm a sex offender." They say, "Well, what for?" He said, "I pissed on a tire." It's literally why. It's crazy. Like you can
Who
get.
says what for?
Yeah, right?
Well, no one,
Yeah,
no
what
one
for?
would.
It's common
Say
courtesy.
that. Well,
Oh, hey, guys, it's just one of your highbrows here. I just wanted to pass along a 10% savings at futuremonsters.com. If you're into the Wolfman, if you're into Frankenstein, King Kong, Dracula, you can go to futuremonsters.com and you save yourself 10% on any of the high-quality threads. They got amazing designs on a quality fabric print. I'll tell you right now, I got one last week. It feels really good on my body. If you want to save 10%, put some stuff in your shopping cart, enter into the coupon code. You want to enter in capital HYBRO. That's capital HYBRO. That's highbrow. Capital HYBRO. Get yourself 10% off.
Well, listen, I'm real excited about today's topic. I'm nervous, but also excited. Because
really nervous.
it is one of my favorites of all time.
Well, really quickly though, also you gotta tell everybody that you and Taylor know, but I myself, Johnny Clark, Hannah, and Danny have no idea.
Yeah, Hannah, Danny, and Johnny have no idea what we're about to talk about.
They're all blind.
They're
I
completely
don't know where I
blind.
am.
And even to an extent, Taylor doesn't know. He knows but doesn't know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a half knowledge here.
It is some half knowledge. So, if you guys will, lend me your ear, and I'm going to get this thing started.
Okay.
In October of 1994, 3 young student filmmakers decided to make a documentary in the woods near Burkittsville, Maryland. While they were seen by many conducting interviews with the locals, it didn't take long for them to disappear, just vanish. After several days, Maryland State Police spent upwards to 10 days and 33,000 man-hours in an attempt to find the missing students. They even employed dogs, helicopters, 100 men, and a flyover by a Department of Defense satellite to locate them. Eventually, the search had to be called off, as they weren't getting anywhere. But a year later, a few tapes were found under an old cabin in the area where the 3 students went missing.
Whoa.
And what was found on those tapes revealed the truth about what happened to those students.
They urinated in France and they got in trouble.
A few years later, after investigation of the footage, Artisan Entertainment acquired the footage to release a documentary worldwide to share the disturbing truth with everyone.
Prestigious.
This documentary was then titled The Blair Witch Project.
What?
Yes, I knew it.
While the film
I knew
was,
from when you started.
while the film was confirmed to be a work of fiction and a brilliant exploration of viral marketing, it did prove that all it took was a strong team to allow viewers to suspend disbelief and make them feel as though what they were watching
It's real.
was indeed fact. This is very important to me, or this is very important to keep in mind as we dive into today's very specific topic. Because just like the Blair Witch Project was the first film to go viral, today we're going to be talking about one of the first conspiracy theories to do the exact same.
What?
I'm talking about the motherfucking moon landing.
Oh, shit!
Oh my god.
Dang, Nick, that was a tight ass segue.
Thanks, bud.
Oh,
Damn. I didn't think it was going to go that way.
I had already prepared the rest of the podcast.
yeah.
I'm very wow.
Thanks.
That was
That's sexy.
you go on, Nick. I can't.
That was incredible.
Thanks.
Wow, that was.
No, I just got to take a minute.
I'm crying a little bit.
I gotta gather my
That
thoughts.
was actually really good. Ooh, I'm getting a little teary. That fucking blew me away.
I say keep in mind, and I mean it. Keep that first paragraph in mind, because while it was, in a sense, misdirection, I want all of you guys and the listeners to make sure that they keep that in the back of their head, because it's going to come back later. The Blair Witch Project.
In the moon landing?
Just all that. Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Wow.
Adam Wingard.
Produced by the same guy.
Are you saying that Neil Armstrong was at that same cabin?
I mean, nothing's off the table, Johnny.
Okay.
You never know.
The space race began on August 2nd, 1955, when the Soviet responded to the U.S. announcement 4 days earlier of intent to launch artificial satellites for the International Geophysical Year by declaring they would also launch a satellite in the near future, quote unquote. On October 4th, 1957, the U.S. suffered its first major loss to the Soviets in the space race with the orbiting of Sputnik 1. And again, they got their asses handed to them on April 12th, 1961, when Yuri Gagarin
yeah, you totally messed that up.
Yeah, that's it.
became the first human in space. The U.S. needed a win, and fast. With the escalation of the Cold War growing daily, the U.S. needed an event in the space race to truly dominate the Soviets and one-up them in every way. So on July 20th, 1969, the United States mic dropped the fuck out of the Soviets by landing the first human in history on the moon with Apollo 11.
Hell yeah, dude.
America.
They might drop, like, the rest of the world they might drop.
Yeah, they pretty much just, like, destroyed everyone.
They're kind of like
Yeah, it's like
spaceship dropped on the moon.
the pinnacle of the penis game in space. Like, you just can't
Can't
like,
stop me
landing
now.
on the moon is the ultimate, like, screaming penis in a bank.
It absolutely is.
NASA got that
Oh, wow.
BDE.
Fascinating.
That big space energy.
Big
The
space.
BSE. You know Pete Davidson somewhere being like, hey, I got the BSE.
All right.
Yeah, the biggest dick in space.
All right.
Oh, okay, we're going to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, you want to divulge on that? I mean, yeah, I wasn't alive for it.
No, it's all right. I'm blowing minds. It's fine.
Honestly, like I know people who remember it, you know, loved ones of mine that like remember the day they sent up Apollo 11 and movies were made after it, and it was an extremely crazy scenario. In my life, it was complete fact, everything space. Until I was like 12, I was like, yes, Star Trek is real. Yeah, Star Wars is real. And then
Laser beams. Pew, pew.
once I found out those were all fake, I was like, wait, is that fake? Is Apollo 11 fake? Is Neil Armstrong fake? Is Lance Armstrong fake? And he was fake.
Apollo
Lance Armstrong
13
was fake.
is fake.
Taylor's like,
Oh, damn.
All right, well, we'll stop now, I guess.
Taylor's like waiting. He's literally like holding back everything, and we're gonna get one of the greatest Taylor rants in podcast history here in about 3 paragraphs.
Good Lord, I hope.
I
Oh,
guarantee it.
shit.
I'm about to tickle his pickle right on the podcast.
All right.
Now, the way I structured that last paragraph was strategically done to show the true severity of the losses suffered by the United States and how they really needed a win. Because in order to even slightly buy into the fake moon landing theory, you need to first see how important it was that the U.S. not suffer a third loss in this crazy war called the space race.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very important you know that. I will clarify that, like most conspiracy theorists, I do not back the idea that 6 of the 12 manned landings were faked.
Wait, can you reiterate that, please?
Yeah.
So the conspiracy theory behind the moon landing being a hoax is that 6 of the 12 manned landings by the United States were faked.
Okay. 6 of the how
There
many?
was like so many different combinations. Like you could think there are like combinations where some of them are fake, all of them are fake, none of them are fake. There's like so many theories on the different combinations. You know, it's weird.
Right. And the overall, like, if you spoke to a flat earther or a very heavy-handed conspiracy theorist, they would say, oh, yeah, 6 of the 12 manned landings were faked. And I'm going to, I want to say right out of the gate that I do not believe that. Okay. But I do, however, believe that the first manned landing on July 20th, 1969 could have been a hoax for the sake of losing to the Soviets, because not only did the U.S. achieve a win, they peaked the entire space race just from that. So knowing how severe this win was
important
and how key it was to not only our country but the entire world, because Russia and the U.S.,
Ukraine, Slovakia,
they were the ones that were head to head. The Cold War was still happening.
Yeah,
so it was a big deal.
They had to win, no matter if they had to fake it or not. Even cheesy doodles, they could not lose. There could be no causality. They had to win.
They had to win. And knowing that at the time, was there a thought that there could be something bigger than like landing on the moon? Did they even conceive that they could go to a planet or some shit at that time? I'm sure they were like, all we got to do is get on the moon. That's considered a win for at least 60 years. Fuck it.
Right.
You know? Yeah, I mean, you think way back when, only till recently have we been able to really like map out asteroid, or I guess like meteorite, like strikes in the Earth. Like at a certain point, far enough back, they didn't even think that was possible, right? You know, like they have it in Space Cowboys when, who was it that Clint Eastwood is a kid, and he's like, do you think I'll ever land on that moon? And they're like, no, probably not, or ever go there. And then look at that fucking 60 years later,
Fucking
he's on the
went
moon.
there, man.
He's fucking Rocket Man on the rocket.
Cowboy,
Right.
dude.
That's the way it happens. So it's important to know. It's very important to know, everything I started off saying about the Blair Witch Project, you got to keep that in the back of your mind.
You said once, said twice.
Yeah, I'm going to say it again. And it's very important to know how severe and how important and how key it was that the U.S. were getting their asses handed to them by the Soviets, and they needed a win. And then it's very important for everyone to know how important this win was, because I'm about to jump like elbow deep into this right now.
Elbow deep?
Elbow deep.
Okay.
So the plausibility of a hoax in order to buy more time seems completely realistic, seeing the factors that I just laid out and reiterated again and again. If the U.S. could be ready for a proper moon landing in just a few months, who's to say it isn't okay to stage one in order to make sure you're the first to be on the moon?
No, I think it's plausible.
Because with another major loss, who knows where we'd be today?
Totally.
But with faking a moon landing, you need to get so many details and factors right. Which is why NASA decided to turn to filmmaker Stanley Kubrick, who was making waves with the advanced special effects he had used in 2001: A Space Odyssey in 1968. While the rebuttals to this state that Kubrick got a lot of things wrong on the look of the moon in 2001: A Space Odyssey, who's to say he didn't work with NASA to get every single detail polished perfectly
close as he could.
before he made this footage public, with which he was hired by NASA to do?
Right?
So many people who worked with Kubrick say he's a perfectionist. Many people like Jack Nicholson. Many people like other people that worked on Stanley Kubrick movies. They say he's a perfectionist, and if he was empowered by NASA to get meticulous detail correct, he would apply that to what's seen on screen. It's even said that Walt Disney helped with funding the hoaxed Apollo 11 footage with a script written by Arthur C. Clarke, which is nuts.
That's a little too much.
It's crazy. So I mentioned all of this as my first point, strictly because this is one of the very few theories that there are actual plausible, that's actually plausible, and that people are having a hard time disproving.
Right.
Proving
I mean,
that
it
it's
seems to make
real or
sense.
fake.
I mean, the reasoning why, like you stated a second ago, just to say they won, even if they don't get there, they got to have this proof that we went there. Why not get Stanley Kubrick? And if all these errors did happen, like, oh, the moon didn't look that cool on 2001: Space Odyssey, who knows? What was that purposeful? How like, I wonder, I didn't look up to see what the year difference is, like, from the release of that movie to this landing,
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Well, 2001: Space Odyssey was completed in post-production in 1968.
Oh, isn't that a year?
And
That's pretty plausible then.
Right.
Oh, man.
Well, you got to also factor in the idea that, like, feature films today, millions and millions of dollars. Let's talk like a Marvel movie. Like, all the money, it's like believed every pound they put up into space is so many millions of dollars. If they didn't actually send up the first space mission, they would have saved billions of dollars, NASA. And all of that money could have gone in, a fraction of that could have gone into making it a film.
Right.
And it's plausible.
Yeah.
But is
Well,
it possible?
also, when you're talking money, though, the U.S. government, are there any limits to the money that they can spend? I mean, I don't think there's a cap on what they could have possibly spent on either of these. You know what I mean?
Especially in wartime, like the idea to get one step ahead, it's a unlimited budget.
Unlimited,
With the U.S. government, and I think with NASA struggling to get funding and all that stuff, I think the U.S. government is very important for them to go, okay, the Cold War is costing us a lot of money, yada, 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 this, that, blah, 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 blah. We need to give that, let's give a portion to the U.S. and NASA, or let's give a portion to NASA to invest in this, because this could be something big enough to where Russia and the Soviets could go, they're on the moon.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
They beat us to it. Let's shake hands.
Yeah.
And see if we can work together.
Yeah.
Because together we are the future.
Well,
because like that blows their minds.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, the idea that, like, if it sucks to lose, but if the end goal was to achieve something and someone else achieved it, you can either, like, be mad about it, right? Or you can, like, congratulate, applaud, and respect that. And I think that was the goal.
Totally.
Well, dude, I don't know, man. A couple weeks ago, we talked about, Space Force. And you got to be blind, if you will, if you're going to think that during this Cold War space race, that the goal is, why would the goal not be get there first, establish a base, and now we're on the top of the hill? Why would that not be? I would very much
don't-
doubt that they're talking about shaking hands. I bet you they're thinking, we're going to get on the moon, and we're starting to shoot rockets on your fucking country, bitch.
I would disagree, Taylor. I would say at that time period in 1969, there was almost a sliver of option to like get them there, get them home, let alone bring them nuclear warheads or bring them any kind of artillery. That is, the long haul. They had no idea that was even possible to this day, and we're even trying to start with that with today, like getting people on the moon or places and bringing gear with them. Like, there's not enough, minds out there in that time period to really think that was possible. So I don't think that's very valid, unfortunately. I'm not trying to be a dick. But
Well, I'm going to disagree wholeheartedly with you. But
well, fuck you then, Taylor.
We're in the middle of a war. Why would it not be, let's get the high ground? That seems to be very obvious.
Yeah, but if the high ground is impossible, you can't get the high ground.
It's not impossible. That's what they were racing for. And they got there. They both got there.
They raced to get there. But once they got there, they didn't plan on making a summer home.
I don't know. I assume that is the goal moving forward every time we go to a new place.
Of
is
course,
set up
it's
shop.
the goal.
That is definitely the goal.
So Taylor, for instance.
I mean, do you think that when they got there, Neil Armstrong kind of walked out and was like, this place kind of sucks.
There's no grass.
I can't do anything here. The gravity is making my farts go anyways. I have no idea. I'm burning my farts and I'm putting my
It wound up back inside my butthole.
I'm going back in the spaceship. I'm going home.
Fuck this.
And then, when Apollo 13 goes around, they're about to land the moon. They get a call from Neil Armstrong. He's like, yeah, don't land there. Moon sucks. And they're like, we're swinging around. We're going back home.
Yeah, that's definitely valid. Taylor,
there's no way I can imagine going to the moon and thinking yeah, I could spend the rest of my life.
Well, right. So that by itself is valid. But Taylor, imagine right now, right? So we're trying to make quote unquote episode 14, right? Space Force. But there's no way the government right now, the U.S. government is saying we're going to get Space Force. We're also going to send colonies up there. We're also going to send nukes. We're also going to try to harness a black hole. Things we want to be able to do. If we can harness a black hole, we can get infinite energy for the rest of time. But those concepts we want to do, but we can't feasibly do.
I don't think it even matters.
Yeah, think of the things that we talked about in that episode. We talked about a secret Space Force that had been in existence for a long time.
Yeah. I the biggest thing I think the disconnect here is I don't think anyone gave a fuck. I think honestly I seriously I think
there is evidence that no one cares about the moon. It's weird.
Back then, really?
But I think it was a it was a pissing contest. It was a pissing contest between the US and the Soviets. And it was who can get where first, do the craziest shit.
Yeah, the biggest guy.
And that was it. And I think it didn't matter. When they got on the moon, it wasn't all right, we're going to drive around. It's we're doing these things because it's one extra thing we could do and say, hey, not only did we land on the moon, but we drove this thing on the moon.
Yeah.
We stuck a flag in the moon.
Yeah.
I took communion on the moon. All this stuff.
Those are the things they needed to do to we
it
want
wasn't about
you.
science.
I think that's the patriotic thing to
contest.
say, but I think that's kind of ignoring things. Why would they spend all that money to just be the first to do that?
Also,
there was a goal.
Think about how hard it would be feasibly for an astronaut on the moon to shoot a rocket. So we're talking hundreds of thousands of miles away from Earth versus all right, we're in DC or whatever. Let's say we're in Area 51. We're only 10 to 20,000 miles away. From Russia or from Germany or whatever, that's so much farther. Why would you bring artillery up there? Because so let's say hypothetically that the Russians, let's say the Russian cosmonauts.
Damn, he's jumping into hypotheticals already. Holy shit! I got 6 paragraphs left.
I believe in this shit. Well, I don't believe in the hoax, but I believe it. So my dad was almost a fucking astronaut. Anyways,
almost.
It was almost
only
an
counting
astronaut.
Horseshoes and hand grenades there,
but it's true. You actually do it. Anyways, so let's say they actually sent up a Russian cosmonaut, and we already had a quote unquote American base with artillery with weapons on the moon. You're saying there's going to be astronauts up there in their dinky-ass spacesuits bouncing around with AK-47s or space guns? That's so unfeasible. So they have to send...
Spear
They have to send...
Space guns. Exactly. Shoot the moonrakers, dude.
Fishing.
But what's the point, hey? So we send 6 guys up there.
Understand.
They send 6 guys up there. Oh, yeah,
it's a new frontier. You got to capture the frontier. You got to claim it. You got to defend it.
We did. No, we claimed it. We captured it. There was no need to defend it. Because what are they going to do? Send up 6 people? We send up 6 people, and whoever 6 wins, and then we send more 6 people?
Yes.
No, but that's so
what's the
unfeasible.
point? You're saying,
that's a waste.
I know I've heard it out of your mouth. Build terraform Mars. Like,
Yeah,
you
well,
believe
no,
that
yeah,
is a
yeah.
thing? Why would they want to do that?
No, well, the idea is to terraform Mars to live on it because I think
But
it's
not
easier to live on Mars
terraform the
than-
moon?
I don't know what the difference is.
Well, so
like my unintelligent self doesn't know what the difference between living on the moon and the Mars is. I guess the moon is cold, Mars is hot.
So SpaceX
I don't know. I guess Mars has an atmosphere.
If there was
Mars used to have an atmosphere.
exactly there was it could
Hannah
be
dropping just like fact knowledge.
but the moon it can't. There won't ever have an atmosphere. There's no way. So therefore, like it's possible to colonize a planet that has water or has had mountains or ravines and an atmosphere. That's the reason to colonize Mars. That's different though, Tay.
Well,
Yeah,
seeing
that is
that Johnny's going all Rain Man, I'm going to reel this back in and
Sorry.
get back on topic.
I'm sorry.
So-
Guys, I'm sorry. I give a
Great job,
shit.
John.
I give
there
a
was
shit.
no
I give a
fucking
shit.
way. I was like, how can I segue back into this? I can't. I can't. It's too far gone.
After all the instructions you gave Hannah and I before we started this, you're the one that's veering off course.
All right.
I'm like, can I skip ahead? I'm just going to
All right. Just go back to it.
So if the moon landing was indeed fake and directed by Stanley Kubrick,
Oh, I didn't know we were that
now
far
I can't
back.
even go back to this.
That's like when I stopped paying attention.
We're so far down some
okay.
big old just rabbit hole.
Just go. Nick, just go.
All right.
So if it's faked.
Yeah, she's back to Stanley Kubrick and that boring shit I was talking about. Where I can't even stay on track.
I believe we left at Jack Nicholson.
Okay, right. Yeah, sure. Jack Nicholson. So we're going to talk about the key factors that created this theory in the first place. So I'm going to list several points. Keep spitting on the microphone. There's a lot of P's in this episode.
Yeah, literally and figuratively.
I'm going to list several points that are key to believing that the moon landing was fake. And then in my notes, it says, pull up Wikipedia page for rebuttals. So give me a minute.
You've never actually read the description of the action to do it.
All right. So here are a few of the specific topics.
Stop laughing so much, dude. Just speak your mind.
Sorry. All right. Here are a few of the specific
Take a breath.
topics.
Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Take a deep breath.
You spit it out.
I'm sorry. God.
Take a deep breath.
Oh.
Take a glass of water. Drink
Taylor's gone dark.
I would love some water if you want to go in the other room.
water. Taylor's here.
All right. So here's a few. I narrowed down of the 20 specific pieces that created this moon landing being fake theory. I narrowed it down to 6. So I'm going to read them off and then read very quick rebuttals to these. It's ridiculous. It'll all make sense. So 1, they say that in these photos and videos, there are no stars in any of the photos or videos. The rebuttal being that the astronauts were talking about naked eye sightings of stars during the lunar daytime, and all manned landings happen during the lunar daytime. Therefore, there are no stars that are present.
What? That
doesn't
sounds
make-
dumb. A
A
lunar
so-
daytime? What is that?
It's so
What the hell
dumb.
even is
Well,
that?
like an oxymoron.
So
if
I
I've
think
ever
the
heard.
Yeah.
idea is
I guess
that
the
wait,
sun
so
is like
so
out
wait,
contrasting
let me-
the stars, whatever. What is that?
Here's the concept behind that. So when the sun is shining on the Earth, or we're seeing
God
the Earth
damn it,
illuminated,
Johnny.
the sky right is bright. When it's nighttime and everything around us is dark, our eyes can calibrate the aperture and we see the sky. If the moon around you is bright, you can't see this. It's the same exact thing as the Earth. Whereas if you're on the dark side of the moon, but you see like the
Yeah.
And
Okay, so he's making a valid point that's staying on topic.
My favorite Transformers.
Thank you, Nick.
So it is that your cameras were set for daylight exposure and could not detect the stars.
Exactly.
So that's
the
the biggest
The exposure was
scenario.
on the moon, and therefore everything else was just impossible to see.
Okay, and the next thing they say is the angle and color of the shadows are inconsistent, hinting that artificial light was used, like a set, like a movie set.
Okay.
They then say that shadows on the moon are complicated by reflected light, uneven ground, wide-angle lens distortion, and lunar dust,
Yeah.
saying that there are several light sources, including the sun, sunlight reflected from the Earth, sunlight reflected from the moon's surface, and sunlight reflected from the astronauts and the lunar module.
Yeah.
I watched a
kinda, but-
MythBusters on the moon hoax landing, and that was one that they
went
actually
to the moon?
debunked. Was they made like a tiny little scale model with one light source. They were able to make all these different shadows in all different directions and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, it's super
So
bizarre.
what you're saying is that all you need is a semi-reflective object in space to have a real big impact on the way light's like shown.
Yes,
Well, okay.
that's pretty much the
So okay.
scenario.
All right.
And then another one here is that there are identical backgrounds in the photos, which, according to captions, were taken miles apart. Which just suggests that a painted background was used on a film set, which is how they made a lot of movies from the 30s onwards to even the late 80s. The rebuttal to this is that backgrounds were not identical, just similar, sort of like a child saying no to his mother when he did something wrong and she's sending her to a room. Like, no, the backgrounds weren't identical, they're just similar. They're saying that there appears to be nearby hills in some photos that are actually mountains many miles away. They're reiterating to us as people saying, well, if objects are further away, they'll appear fainter and less detailed. Fucking right. I get it. It's so dumb. Okay. So dumb.
So wait, who are answering these questions?
NASA.
Who are like counter? Yeah. So NASA, not the astronauts themselves.
Yes.
How the hell does NASA know this stuff? Do they have like answers prepared and ready for every single rebuttal?
In the 80s, they put out basically the sheet of, all right, we're tired of y'all talking about this being fake, so we're going to put a sheet together and we're going to just let y'all know that you're wrong. And this is them saying everyone's wrong.
Hannah, just to because I want to hear from Hannah for a little bit. Have you heard anything about this, Hannah? Like these like weird moon hoax things, and how do you feel about it?
I do definitely think it's possible, and I think it's like really like the whole childish spiel between like Russia and America. I can definitely see America be like, guys, let's just fake it. We got this.
Okay. I mean, hey, fake it till you make it, you know?
Exactly. So I definitely think it was real.
Okay.
It could be a hoax. But I mean, now there's like no way to tell because like there's so many pictures where there's like, oh, this is not something, this is like a stage light, blah 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 blah.
Sure.
And it's like, how can you tell it now when like these pictures have been out for so long?
Totally.
Right.
Everything could be photoshopped at this point.
Exactly.
No.
100%.
So it's been too long ago, so you can't even like go back to the sources that are like the original ones.
Sounds a lot like the Danny Costolero episode at a certain point. Like it's believed that you can't revisit something that is so far in the past because things don't cross and people are dead or things on the line.
And I'm
exactly.
I'm going to get into that as well because there is the number of how many people involved in this are staggering, and that shifts some things a little bit.
What do you mean in this?
We're getting there.
Okay.
If I can just say one thing.
You can say it.
Say it.
I think it was real.
I
100% believe we landed on the moon.
Me too.
And that's coming from, I don't believe in bacteria.
For you listeners at home, Danny does not believe.
I go that far at home. But like, I really do think we landed there. And I think there are a lot of... Why?
Well,
we're going to talk about that. I just want to lay it out right now so you have the rest of the podcast to like convince
And I'm
me.
glad you do, Danny, because I do as well in a different...
Right, because it happened.
In a different capacity. And I'm going to get there as well. So stay tuned!
How do you know it's different?
One of the final three details that I pulled that were fascinating that people thought this was a hoax is that they say the photos and video contain artifacts like the two seemingly matching C's on a rock on the ground, meaning these rocks could be studio props. So there is, in some of these close-up images, if you zoom in on the rocks, there's a pair of rocks that have the letter C drawn on them as if this was a studio prop.
Yeah, there's that one. So, like, I mean,
Yeah,
the letter
I heard about
C,
that.
that's just a pretty easy shape to just happen out there in nature. And
That's
plus,
true.
Right.
why the fuck would that denote a fucking prop? Like, oh, this is prop C. Like, what a shitty numbering system. Like, way to put your serial numbers on it. What do you have? You only have 26 props? You only have A through Z? That doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Yeah, that's not
Not Kubrick at all.
He wouldn't let that fly. It's not
Especially as detailed as he was. Like, he wouldn't be letting mega mistakes come through like that.
Yeah.
No, I saw no price tags in The Shining.
When they say the C-shaped objects are most likely printing imperfections and do not appear on the original film of the camera, it's also been suggested that the C is a coiled hair, which I went to film school. We had a print film class. There were many times where things in the images, they were hairs, they were scratches, they were so many factors.
Totally. Like when you develop film, things can make it look so double exposure. Things make it so drastically like different. You had to take a picture, and oh my, is that an alien? Is that a ghost in the background of that picture of your family? No, it's a fucking like piece of dust or smudge.
Yeah. So this was one of my favorite ones. This one is actually a question, so to speak, that was posed. That the question is, who filmed Neil Armstrong stepping onto the moon? Which that was a big one. It's like, who was filming?
Yeah.
the shot, the iconic shot, is oddly timed and shot really well.
It's not bad.
It's very interesting. So the rebuttal of this one is where shit gets crazy for me. These last two are where it gets just off for me. So they say that the thing that shot Neil Armstrong was the lunar module.
Yeah, like it was on
saying that there was a camera hidden in the modularized equipment storage assembly from the side of the lunar module.
Okay.
It housed many things, like the TV camera, meaning that 600 million people on Earth could watch the live feed. I just like, why would you put that in a stowage assembly?
I'm confused. What's the problem with having a camera on the ship?
I'm just saying that they're saying that the rebuttal is that the lunar module was actually filming Neil Armstrong. This fucking robot.
The oddity would
filming.
be that it would be placed that perfectly, cinematically.
Well, no. Why didn't they put the camera on there and then he just went in front of that section? Like,
it was on a different device. It wasn't on his lander,
you're saying
right?
they like put a rover down?
Was that correct?
Like some kind of.
It's on. So the lunar module was actually the ship that landed.
Yes.
Okay, guy.
On the lunar module, the camera was there.
That's what's not weird to me.
It doesn't make sense because there's actually movement in that footage.
Oh, the video turns.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. That's why it's odd to me.
Could they have possibly done a what are those crawls where you like what are they called, Ken Burns, where they move the image?
I mean, they could have done it, but it was still very specific that there was enough movement in the footage.
Okay, so here's the thing. You're telling me that there was not someone that filmed it. It was like the ship or some kind of machine that had
that's
the
what
camera
they're
on it.
It's also
That's what
possible that
NASA
one of the other
always thought
dudes
someone
was
filmed it.
mechanically operating it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay, so here comes. This is when I start to doubt that it's real. This kind of stuff. So you're telling me that literally. So when I think of the moon landing, I feel like getting there was half of it, and then proving that we went there was the other half.
100%.
So you're telling me that they did not, like, they had all these astronauts, perfect. They didn't have another space for someone specific,
of course
film
not.
crew, anything to prove it.
No, because
like in Armageddon, they sent miners to an asteroid. They couldn't send. They couldn't stand Kubrick himself with a camera. Yes,
He's not qualified. He had heart problems, bro.
In Armageddon, they sent steel beams that weighed hundreds of pounds. Back then, when they sent an astronaut into space in 1969, the amount of money and lack of space it would take to put somebody in one of those modules was impossible. Like they barely were able to fit those three or four. Was it the three guys?
It was three.
Yeah, three guys in.
Buzz Aldrin. The other guy,
Neil Armstrong. Yeah, well, so it was
the other guy.
It was
that sucks.
Yeah, it sucked to be
There's
him.
always that one guy,
David Clark. So it was impossible to put them in there, let alone another person. There just wasn't enough money, wasn't enough resources, and they wanted them to get there safe and sound. There wasn't like, hey, you know that film guy, the filmmaker? Oh, Nick Floyd, put him in there.
You throw him in there.
Fuck that.
Hey guys,
He's the greatest of our time.
There's no way.
It's a cool fight on your food.
Like the idea that like America does not need at that time an actual filmmaker. They needed one shitty camera on the module. That's all we really needed. A picture to show it. Just not an expensive camera. Not a person that knows how to do it. Not cameras that can even do real double exposure to see the stars. They just
this is 1969, and that's important to speak on.
Yeah, it's also I've watched a lot of videos where they try and say that the people from Hasselblad and the creator of the Hasselblad cameras that they used try to say that they couldn't even shoot that shit. But I don't know. That's hearsay. But I've seen many documentaries where the actual people from Hasselblad, the creators of that Hasselblad camera, said that it could not do what these shots are.
And this is, and that, Taylor, like what you just said, it brings me to my last point, saying that film in the cameras would have been fogged by galactic ambient radiation.
Yeah, they went through the Van Allen belt, Van Allen radiation belt.
They did. And I don't know about you, and I don't know if any of you guys have shot on a film camera before, but if it's too fucking cold or too hot or too wet or too dry, like even in a protective film canister, shit still gets messed up. Like
so
the film will get fogged. Like
in the vacuum of space, it's impossible that camera's gonna survive.
I think the changes in temperature, the changes in environment. I think the film, because films, the emulsion in the film. I think no matter how well built the camera is,
or the housing
of the camera, like we have Sony A7Ss and Canon 5Ds, and we have Reds, and we have all this stuff. If the camera gets too hot, the camera will shut down. If it's too cold outside, the camera will shut down. We're talking film.
So what happens if, hypothetically, if there's a piece of glass protecting the spaceship from space, and the camera is just inside of that glass?
I think I think the powers of space, it's like solar flares, all these different things that are coming down that like our atmosphere protects us from.
No, I know. I'm not. I'm saying, what if the camera's not outside? What if it's literally inside of a piece of glass that's inside the space?
I just don't know that glass shields from that kind of stuff.
Well, you're saying that they were in that that spaceship, Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong, and they didn't have glass. They had.
Well, they say the film
and stuff, right?
So I'm saying, so the camera is where they would be, inside, filming it.
Okay.
But behind glass.
Yeah. Okay.
But they say the film was stored in metal containers, which kept the radiation from fogging the film's emulsion. That's the rebuttal that was released.
Metal?
Yeah.
But
I don't buy it.
The cameras are metal.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make a difference.
Isn't lead what protects you from radiation?
Maybe. Well, that is metal, so maybe that was it.
No, I think they use gold sheeting. I think that's what they use. I mean, lead would be way too fucking heavy. I think that's why they use gold.
Yeah, they use gold sheeting. They do use gold.
It's just the whole thing.
So the movement's weird to me, but someone could be controlling that. There's a lot of things that don't make a whole lot of sense. But then again, even today, remember, guys, even today, when we've seen, not recent, but like the most recent astronaut footage isn't great. It's still shitty. Not only because it's millions of miles away, but like it's so hard to capture. Like the cameras didn't make sense, but like we have to give that a pass.
This footage was so good, though. Like, I mean, the quality of this footage was ridiculously
There's no settings on these cameras. There's
that's
no
what
settings.
I thought when I saw the pictures.
These astronauts can't fiddle with the cameras. They can't say, okay, that's not the right exposure. Like the exposures are set before this rocket ever takes off. You know, they're just guessing that this shit is right, and it just happened to be.
It still got damaged though. The film still got damaged though, right?
In the end, the film's actually, there is a weird thing that happened to the film. I don't know about that film, but it was all live broadcast, right? So it was broadcast in real time, like unlike today where we have an 8-second delay. To claim that this was all live broadcast.
Which is crazy. A live, real-time broadcast from space in 1969.
Wait. Was the live broadcast in space? They broadcast
it was from space.
I've got some info on this live broadcast, okay? So the original broadcast was recorded from Apollo 11's slow scan television, or SST, in its raw form onto telemetry data tape. They were recorded as a backup to the broadcast. And then in order to broadcast this slow scan, the SSTV transmission, NASA converted in real time to NTSC television format. And then tons of people around the world recorded that broadcast, on their shitty recorders, right?
Like tube televisions.
So there is an original broadcast that was captured in this SSTV form, like a literally raw form, uncompressed, looked good as fuck. And all the tapes existed until the 1980s when there was apparently some shortage of telemetry data tapes and NASA recorded over them. So there are no original tapes of this broadcast.
What the fuck?
And the one that you've seen, the broadcast that everyone has seen, had already gone through conversion. So it's already down converted at least once.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there are people who saw on their own screens, like in Australia, who were actually bringing in this broadcast to do the backups. There are people who saw the actual raw uncompressed footage. And then they even videotaped it with their stupid little recorders, like videotaping a TV doing it. And so there are pictures of it out there where you can see where it is much clearer than the broadcast that we saw. But it's how fucking dumb is that? Why in the world would you get rid of the raw data?
Real.
Okay, well, here's another thing, Taylor. Why in the world, if Stanley Kubrick did film this, why would he have filmed it that well? If he's that meticulous and that, specific and OCD ridden, why would he make it? Because he's like, in my life, I'm like, well, if I'm trying to make found footage, if I'm trying to make it look like found footage, why would I shoot it on a red with a Steadicam?
Well,
right?
I don't know where Nick's going with this, but there are two different schools of thought. Obviously, if we're talking about a broadcast coming from space, that couldn't have been shot by Stanley Kubrick, right? So the stuff that we're talking about is being shot by Stanley Kubrick would have been something different.
Yeah, I know.
So
you're right,
there's two schools of thought here. The broadcast came in, it got recorded, and they're giving us this excuse that I just told you. Yeah, it was converted, and then it was converted to NTSC, so you could broadcast it, right? Blah, 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 blah. what if somebody was recording these raw, films? NASA has the raw films. In the 80s, they say, yeah, somebody recorded over them. Sorry, we don't have them. So they just say they never existed. Now we don't have them anymore. But on the other hand, the broadcast that we saw still could have been Stanley Kubrick's production. Not even related to the actual, transmission that was brought in. You know what I mean?
Are you saying that Stanley Kubrick directed it? Well, are you saying they did go to the moon and Kubrick directed it?
Yeah, I'm saying, yeah, exactly. I think one of the popular beliefs out there, and I don't want to jump ahead in front of Nick, but one of the popular beliefs is that both happened. Yes, they did go to the moon, and they did transmit, film back, but the stuff that we saw was directed by Stanley Kubrick. That's the the popular belief.
They did fake their photos.
That is a fact that they've smudged photos. I mean, that's a fact. NASA's come out and said that over the years.
It's provable.
I would definitely argue the idea that if we went to the moon and we landed, no matter what we shot, we would have done quote-unquote reshoots for the public.
Like
not
a
the
presentation
live stream, but,
kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I think after we saw the footage from the moon, if we did shoot footage in the moon, then when we came back, Stanley Kubrick or whoever reshot it and made it look specifically how he wanted it to, where they wanted it to for Russia, right? Like polished it up and made reshoots. So I think it's definitely feasible that both happened.
Totally. Well, and I think the biggest thing, the final top off with the 6 things that I read off about where this all started, there are also a lot of mechanical issues that have been there have been rebuttals to them. So it's like the lunar modules made no blast craters or any sign of dust scatter. There is the lunar module sense stage that made no visible flame. There is the lunar modules weighed 17 tons and made no mark on the moon dust, yet footprints from the astronauts themselves can be seen beside them, making them there.
Did they take pictures of the
and apparently
there are
you can still see them.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Wait, so the way they say there's pictures of where the ship was?
The footprints.
I know, but why would they have taken pictures of where the module landed?
It's
because it's it's from above.
No, I
it
get
was
that.
a photo from above.
I'm just saying, they have pictures of the feet print. Obviously, take a picture of the foot.
Yeah, I don't know, tomato. But what I'm trying to say is,
okay.
Sorry, you're good. Got really in.
You're good. Just that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, they just took the picture. I don't know.
But they didn't. They
took the picture. It was later. It was I don't know.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that the rebuttals to these specific things, the mechanics, are a lot of numbers and math and things that just don't make a lot of sense to a lot of people. So it's, the reason why the lunar module didn't make any sort of imprint on the moon was because it weighed 17 short tons. And after expanding fuel and oxidizer on the descent from lunar orbit, the lander weighed about 2,698 pounds. The astronauts were much lighter than the lander, but their boots were much smaller. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on.
So that's what I'm confused about, though. So, yeah, there was footprints. It's weird because they're so light, and they're in, 30% gravity, so they're even lighter. But why would they have taken a picture of where the spaceship was to see if there were
It was
prints?
later. So they took the picture later. They've been to the moon again.
And they
know where they landed. They landed in the Sea of Tranquility.
The picture that we're talking about right now is a picture of a device that has wheels.
Yes.
Okay, so there are footprints around where this thing is, right? Clear footprints of somebody walking around, but there are no tracks either in front or behind these wheels. So it was just placed down, which is also a possibility.
Right.
Are you guys looking at a picture in there?
No, I just know what picture you're talking about.
Just like you, Danny, Hannah, and I, we don't get any pictures on this podcast.
Right.
Nick and Taylor do.
So the key, to move forward, the key that I'm saying here is that a lot of things that were placed there, the larger items like the lunar module, like the blast craters or dust scatter that was expected from something when it lands, there are a lot of specific things from NASA saying, well, no crater should be expected, and this and that. So there's so many factors here, and like I said, remember the Blair Witch Project. Remember these specific things because these are about to come into play in this little outro here for everything. So with this being one of the first conspiracy theories, there have been over 40 years for people to debunk many different theories, which this actually had a very big impact on this episode for me. It is also said that there were nearly 400,000 people involved in the Apollo missions, which would make it nearly impossible to keep so many people quiet for that long.
Yeah.
But you just don't have to keep that many people quiet. Everything's on a need-to-know basis, just like the Manhattan Project, remember?
Well,
right.
Well, wait. You're saying 400,000 people that are not only like that are families of the astronauts, people that work in the actual NASA launch system, their families, their friends,
all just pawns in the game.
Okay.
They are.
They don't know.
And that's
they're not in the know.
And with so many other government officials entering and exiting office and dealing with secrets on a daily basis, there does seem to be a rebuttal in place, even if 400,000 is an insanely high number of people to keep quiet. And I say that meaning there were a lot of people in the military. There were a lot of people who work at Lockheed Martin, and I know a handful. There were a lot of people who work in medical fields and in labs and that cannot talk about anything. There are people on film sets who sign NDAs who do not talk about that.
Non-disclosure agreements.
If you're a part of something that you know you're going to make change, if you're a part of NASA and you know that you're going to work on stuff that is it's just too much to talk about and too much to process for, the typical public.
Yeah, they can't handle it.
You know what you're getting into.
If it's the idea that if you know that outside of Plato's cave is going to blow people's minds and drive them insane, don't let them out of Plato's cave.
Right.
Al Gore the cave.
Right. And I'm not saying we didn't go to the moon. I'm not saying that. However, I believe that on November 14th, 1969, with the launch of Apollo 12, that could have been the first true manned moon landing by the U.S. It makes sense that it was only a few months after Apollo 11, and given that NASA needed more time to test the lunar module that is known as Saturn V, it makes sense. However, as I previously said, this is a conspiracy theory that has lived on for years and years, and there have been plenty of rebuttals as well as claims against new discrepancies almost every day. So I do think we did go to the moon on November 14th, 1969 for Apollo 12.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. You're telling me that there was an Apollo 12?
What? What the fuck?
Yeah, and a 13, and a 14.
And a 14.
I knew there was a 13, but you're blowing my mind right now.
Yeah, it happened.
I literally thought we made 2 attempts. You're telling me there was an Apollo 12?
Yeah, and we made it to the moon.
Many attempts.
I thought it just crashed.
There was one,
and they relabeled it 13.
No.
Like 12.2.
Dude, you just blew my mind.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one is the one that exploded on the launch pad.
13.
I don't know.
No, not 13.
It was.
How many were there?
There's only one with Explorer that had a guy in it, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
No, how many attempts did they have?
A lot.
Oh, yeah, dude, so many.
What about 18 where they went to the moon and found the aliens?
Yeah. Was it 12 total? Is that what you said? I don't know if that was, I don't know if that was right.
12 total people.
It was a lot.
Or 12, was it 6 out of 12 that was fake? I don't know.
Wait, so there were fake ones?
Well, no, 6 out of 12 that people believe were fake. Like, hoaxers would believe that it was 6 out of 12 that were fake.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I'm trying to pull up how many, but I can't find it right now. But there were a lot. But that's where my true line of thought comes from, is that because it was so urgent, seeing the tests and all that needed to be done for the Saturn V and the lunar module, I think that the Apollo 11 mission could have been staged in order to stake claim in this space race, this war, essentially, for power in the space game. And I think Apollo 12, because it was only just months after Apollo 11, that this was the opportunity for NASA to say, okay, now we can finally go. We just have to keep this lie safe for X amount of months, and then we can go ahead and say, okay, we did it. We have moon rocks. We have all that shit.
What's weird about the moon? When I said earlier that no one cares about the fucking moon and there's evidence for it, it's because when they bring back all these moon rocks, they loan them out to scientists and people, and they give them out as gifts to governors and stuff. And dude, they all get lost. Most of the,
really?
Not most, but a large amount of the moon rocks that have been collected are just completely unaccounted for, and they've just been lost because no one gives a shit about them. It's weird.
Because they look like normal rocks?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Scientists would get them and then never do any studies on them, and they would eventually die, and these samples that are supposed to be returned would just be lost in the boxes, and these people's stuff.
How many rocks look different than rocks. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. It just looks like volcanic rock or something.
I'll tell you what. Like any asteroid at my house we have an asteroid or a meteorite, meteor, whatever the difference is.
That one space rock thing.
And the only difference in it looking like a normal piece of cobblestone or whatever is its weight. It literally looks like a piece of rock. It's just like fucking heavy. So like I think it's very plausible that they could just like lose them and like not see them. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not something you leave on your desk,
I mean, it could be.
It could be, but it's also very heavy.
Here's what I find really hard to believe. That I have to disagree. I really don't think the whole point of this moon landing was to beat the Russians.
Okay.
Like, I get looking back at that now, but you're telling me there weren't a few people that genuinely really wanted to go to the moon.
No, I do think that it was in the cards. I think that was the next step regardless. I think the moon was the plan all along, and I know that the Soviets wanted to go and that the U.S. wanted to go, that was the next step. And I think the U.S. needed to get there before they could.
Yeah, it's the only reachable landing point outside of the Earth. It's the only frontier. It's the only new frontier.
Yeah, but I can't see everyone in the control room saying, like, we gotta go, we gotta beat the Russians, we gotta get there right now. Like, I feel like this whole thing, they really genuinely wanted to go to
Absolutely,
the moon.
yeah.
I think people wanted to go to, of course, like the scientists wanted to go, but I feel like they probably had pressure from the outside, maybe the government or whatever. But because I don't think they would rush it that bad.
Yeah, but I don't think there was this big competitive event that we think of it as.
But
it's so far ahead.
Talk about patriotism, and every big war is preceded by a really big patriotic event. And this could be something that's like, okay, we really think something's going to happen in the Cold War. We got to up our patriotism a little bit. We got to get everybody back on our side in our own country.
Yeah.
Let's prove to them that we're the best,
Right. And what's like that? The image of patriotism is that fucking flag.
It's true.
On the surface of the moon.
Isn't it now
Like that
white
is
because of
America.
radiation?
Huh?
Is it now like white from radiation? I heard that. Like,
I think so.
That we look at it now, it's like it looks just like a big white flag, like the French held up in.
Yeah, the radiation because of the belt, the Van Allen belt is the radiation's insane.
It's just literally like it wiped all the color clear, so it's like just a big white flag. That's what I heard.
Yeah. Well, I think as far as patriotism and stuff goes, I do think that there is a certain amount of control over this. I mean, NASA was a program. NASA was not a branch of the government. NASA was a program, and I think. We'll role play right now, but Johnny, let's say you're a little, you're just a little guy who works at NASA, and I'm a member of the government, and you're just working away, you're just typing away on these 1969 keyboards, and I kick the door open, and I'm like, listen here, motherfucker! Yeah, that's right. We're going to the goddamn moon.
Goddamn moon.
And we need to go in 2 months.
Okay.
You make it happen.
Okay.
And then you just say,
we're going to go in this decade or the next, or whatever.
We're not ready.
Well, I'll tell you how you can get ready. You need to contact Stanley Kubrick. He made a film called 2001: A Space Odyssey. Get him on the phone, make it happen, or I'm going to kill you and your family.
He's going to be a big deal in the future. I can see it.
Dude, so have you guys heard any of the fucking, or watched any documentaries about Stanley Kubrick's and like the signs that he put into his movies about the moon landing?
I haven't even seen his movies.
I don't even know which one.
I haven't seen any of his movies. Hannah has no. I've never seen Space Odyssey. I've never seen The Shining.
You've never seen The Shining?
I know
You've never seen The Shining?
Dude.
I'm saving it for. It's on my list of really good movies to watch.
I know we're
right
watching
next
tonight.
to Shawshank Redemption, and I do not think I'm gonna watch The Shining or Space Odyssey tonight because all I'm gonna be thinking about is how the moon landed.
Dude, all right. Well, I'm gonna give you some scenes to think about while you're fucking watching it. So
it's cool. I've seen Ready Player One. I mean, I'm in it. Like I know. I got the gist.
Well, there's this documentary called Room 237, produced by this dude named Jay Weidner, and it like goes through all these crazy examples of what seems to be Stanley Kubrick hinting that he did in fact hoax this moon shit.
Or he's just doing that to be like, oh, I'm just gonna tease the crazies out there.
Yeah. I mean,
but is that something a creator would do? Like someone as serious and articulate?
Yeah, here's my take on that. Like, his daughter Vivian came out in the recent years and be like, there's no way my dad would have done that. He was a pro. He was a literal genius. He was like a perfectionist, and he really cared about people, and he cared about humans, and he wouldn't want to deceive people, But on the flip side of that, what if he had no choice? Like, governments often don't give you a choice. And I don't think he was even American, right? He was English. So I don't know. Maybe the U.S. could give less shits.
Yeah.
But like,
well, they could have hired anybody that would have done it.
Could that be why, if it was fake, that it was not flawless? Could it be like he had a gun pointed to his head, hypothetically?
Well, I mean, it was probably...
And that's why there were so many errors and, like,
well,
signs.
it can only be as good as his knowledge will let him. I mean, he has no idea what shit's going to look like in space. I mean, he's just guessing, you know?
Right.
Well, one of the things that people do say is that it seems to be apparent that front screen projection was used in all these moon videos. And you can see all these videos where people try and paint out, like, exactly where, like, the horizon ends, and it's what they would call is, that's the end of the set, and that's where space exists, and then the front projection is right behind it. So there's a lot of that in there. But my thought is, if he was a perfectionist and he cared about human and he didn't want to deceive people, but he had no choice, he would have been murdered, or possibly his family murdered. Why wouldn't he go ahead and do it, make it as good as he can, and then throw out some signs later? You know, to be like, I care about humans, I want them to know, I can't tell them, but, you know.
Right.
Yeah, that's what the C stands for. Capture.
No, some of the points, though, in this fucking, in The Shining, dude, are crazy, dude. So, I know you know the iconic carpet, like, layout, you know, the little hexagon pattern and the oranges and blacks? You guys know that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's a pattern in there. Yes. It's pretty iconic carpet pattern. Well, there's a scene in the movie where Danny, the little boy,
right, me.
Well, he goes into one of these hotel rooms and sees this sweet-ass naked babe, right? So the scene starts out, he is sitting on the carpet, playing with some little toy trucks and stuff, and he is centered over one of these hexagons. And all the trucks are kind of laid out around this hexagon. If you look at photos of the NASA launch pad for the Apollo launch pad, it's a fucking hexagon, the exact same shape as this. It looks exactly the same shape. It is nuts. When Danny hears something, or I don't know if a ball rolls towards him, I don't quite remember, but he's like, he stands up and he's going to walk to this room. When he stands up, you realize he's wearing a sweater. What's on that sweater? Apollo 11 rocket. So it's said that he gets up from the launch pad, that's Apollo 11 taking off, right? He walks over to this door. The room is number 237, okay? Now in the book, the room is 217. So he changed it to 237, and it's said that every time he changes something from the source material, there's a reason. And this is pretty fucking dumb, but if you on the door itself, it says room number 237, and room is capitalized, and the N in number is capitalized, and people try and say, yeah, if you take those letters, it spells moon room. Which, okay, yeah, it does, I guess. Sure, I guess. But a crazy thing, at the time, the average distance from the Earth, the moon, was 237,000 miles from the Earth on average.
That's real specific.
It's pretty specific. Not only that,
yeah.
One of the legends that, like, one of the things that, like, debunks, that people try and say debunks it, is that, oh, well, the hotel said that they needed to change it from 217 to 237 so that guests later don't get freaked out by staying in room 217. Well, if you do the research, there is no 217 in that hotel.
Weird.
Right. It's fucking crazy, dude.
Crazy. Well,
and there's
on top of all that, they said, you know, there is a rumor still to this day that Stanley Kubrick wrote an unproduced a secret screenplay. And a lot of people thought it was Napoleon, which was then released by Bondo or somebody. Somebody released it as a book, and you could read the screenplay, what they could gather. But there is a rumor that Kubrick wrote one final screenplay, and in that screenplay are...
Cloverfield.
Yeah, it's Cloverfield. It's secrets that he had been keeping, and the biggest secret to him was the Apollo 11 filming. And there are cues in the film that are answers to how it actually happened.
Or
and
it's
how
just
it went
a publicity stunt. Because no publicity is bad publicity.
Or it is. And that leads me to the final paragraph of this, which was very, like, borderline emotional for me to write. Because in a way, it sort of sums up this podcast and conspiracy theories and everything as a whole. And it really made me step back and go, well, fuck.
Oh, okay.
So in 2016, the director of the Political Capital Institute in Budapest, Peter Kreko, gave his students a unique assignment that required them to take two completely unconnected events and invent a plausible connection between them. The students said how easy it was, which then showed how easy it is to create conspiracy theories. But this also shows how easy it is to rebut conspiracy theories such as the moon landing. For example, for the businesses to come out and say you're wrong is like getting only one side of the story. And we've talked about this during the LHC CERN episode when they denied that bizarre stage sacrifice that happened on their facility's campus because they just came out and they're like, no, it didn't.
Yeah.
It's like, who are you to say it didn't?
Yeah.
But are rebuttals stated solely to just shut down the further investigation of certain events like the moon landing? Is there more we don't know about this entire situation? I truly believe so, and I think that's the fun of it all. And going back to the Blair Witch Project, the ability to spread a fake story was completely plausible pre-social media. The Blair Witch Project did it successfully.
Yeah.
So who's to say that back in 1969 there wasn't a really captivating fictional story? Not just for fun, but to save our country from a potential threat.
Yeah.
Now, you never know.
So what had happened was...
What had happened was...
So what had happened was...
We needed to get to the moon. We wanted to so badly that we made a film, and we ended up winning because of it.
Yeah, I think it changed everything. I think going to the moon, and I do think we went to the moon. Do I think it was on July 20th, 1969?
Well,
maybe.
Let's do this. Who in this podcast believes we went to the moon? Nick?
Yeah.
I do believe we went to the moon, but I believe we went to the moon in November 14th, 1969.
Okay, so you believe we went to the moon?
I do believe we went to the moon.
On the day, the first day?
No, not on July 20th.
Oh, okay. So you did it the second time?
Yes.
Okay, Taylor, what do you think?
I think we went there the first time, but the footage that we see as the footage is not the actual footage.
I agree. Danny?
When I started hearing about Apollo 12, I feel like it makes sense that they would push this off later, but then that accepts that all the footage in Apollo 11 was fake, which I do not believe.
So
I do believe they faked photographs, so I'm on Taylor's side.
Okay, so we are all in agreement. We went there, but they filmed...
We're forgetting someone else.
Oh, I'm not done yet. So all three of us agree. Okay, all right, Hannah, how about you? What do you think happened?
Sorry, I stopped listening 15 minutes ago.
What do you think happened?
No, I wasn't sure if you were done talking or not.
Ouch.
I think I'm with Nick.
Okay. So the first time didn't happen, but the second time definitely did.
Yeah.
So the first time was just specifically for us to win, hands down, cheatsy doodles, we got it.
I think the first time was to take off the pressure of, we went there, and the second time was to, actually, do it.
We got a 3-2 split, but in democracy, that means we win. Good job, Taylor, Johnny, and Danny.
No one won anything.
So one thing that I stumbled across was this dude named William Tompkins, who was a NASA aerospace designer on the Apollo missions. He wrote a book after he retired called Selected by Extraterrestrials. And in this book, he talks a lot about the Apollo 11 mission. And what he says is that it was absolutely fake, and that if people were to see the real footage, it would be insane because they were running into aliens the entire fucking time. He said before they even approached the moon, that they were escorted by ships down to the moon, and then once they land on the moon, and I know you guys have heard this, that Neil Armstrong, they have to buzz over to the secret channel, right? So they can talk about the aliens that they're seeing on the edge of this crater. Well, this dude, William Tompkins, says, yes, these craters were there, and he draws pictures of them, these giant, massive ships, and he quotes Neil Armstrong as saying, there are other ships here, they are enormous. And then he claims that they were then escorted out. And the aliens were basically like, get the fuck out of here. And then on the missions that came after, it was similar. They were just like, get the fuck out of here.
But then how... But we can see the flag from the Earth.
Well, we went back. We were there. Yeah, we went back. We were there every time. But every time we went, they're like, yo, get the fuck out. And what my guess is, eventually... we're political people. Humans are like, dude, we're cool guys. We're not getting the fuck out. And I bet if extraterrestrials were there, then by us continually coming up there, they might be like, all right, okay, they're becoming advanced enough to where maybe we need to pay some attention to them, not just tell them to go away. Maybe let's talk to them a little bit. Boom, Space Force exists.
So you're saying this moody teenager alien's like, get the fuck out of my room!
get out of
And
my
eventually,
room,
like,
Mom.
You know what?
Like literally alien
Yeah.
bouncers.
You know what? I actually, Mom, I need you for some money. I think we could make a space force. It's like I want you to live. I want you to live in my basement, or I want to live in your basement, Mom. Like we're living on these aliens' back step, and we're gonna have a symbiotic relationship, and you're gonna never gonna go to college.
Yeah, personally, I think that's most feasible. That this footage was faked before they ever took off. In the event that something crazy happens up there, not only in the event that like, oh, maybe we don't get there, but it's like, okay, yeah, we do get there, but something crazy happens that we cannot show on a live broadcast. You know, we just simply cannot show it.
And that's the biggest thing too, is that you think about, streaming fucking American Idol live, and they're like, oh, should we? What if someone decides, if someone doesn't get voted in the show, they're going to go off on air. You're going to the moon. You're going to a new frontier. And you're live streaming it on television. And that's just, that is a very good point.
Variables.
It's like, what, that's such a risk that what if, I just don't think I think the government would intervene and say, you can't do that. You need to figure something else out. And maybe that's the harmless truth behind it all, is that it had to be faked for the security of our nation, of our world, of our Earth.
We've had liftoffs be live. We've had rockets explode live on TV.
Yeah, but you can watch that. But if they got to the moon and they got out and there was like a 9-foot tall, super skinny, like creepy looking thing, just like, welcome to the moon.
Yeah, no, that was literally the cold open to Transformers 3 Dark Knight, where they land on the moon, take their selfies, and then go check out the big ships.
That would ruin America. That would ruin the world if there was actually an alien. It's not about killing an astronaut in space or killing it on the takeoff or all that stuff, which is horrible in Fort Knox. It's all about if we live streamed it and we saw an extraterrestrial. That would fuck everything up.
Right.
Well, then clearly, that if that were true, that would prove that America cared more about protecting the people and doing what's best for America than the race against the Soviets.
Almost.
Because if they went there first and saw the aliens, that would be the biggest mic drop to the rest of the world, more so than landing on the moon.
Yeah, like they established contact first.
Aliens. Yeah, we made first contact.
Yeah.
So if that is true, then really our intentions were purely just to go to the moon.
Right. Well, and one of the biggest things that I didn't mention because this was about the hoax itself, this whole episode, was, there were some amazing people who were involved in the Apollo 11 mission, and that was Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins.
Okay.
Nice.
And,
Phil Collins?
Phil Collins?
Quick Google search.
Yeah, I did. I pulled it up on Wikipedia. But that's the key here. And Neil Armstrong's story is so fascinating. And, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but Ryan Gosling's going to be portraying him in First Man, which comes out October 12th, 2018. I'm excited to see
Boner City.
I'm excited to see that story and to see how that all panned out, because at one point or another, those three men contributed a lot to NASA, and the mission was dangerous if it was real. If it wasn't, whatever they were involved in, there was a lot going on, and that they did disappear. And there were moments where Neil Armstrong's wife was, he would disappear and come back and be all beat up, and that was essentially from the training. But you just don't know, if the hoax theory works, like what did Buzz Aldrin, Neil Armstrong, and Michael Collins go through? And that is something that we'll never know. Maybe we will one day, maybe we won't. But in the meantime, we can just keep talking about it, because it's 40 plus years strong and it's super fun. And just keep it going.
Yeah.
Well, here's one.
On a side note, I just wanted to point out, I talked about this a little bit earlier. I want to point out one of my favorite movie posters of all time was Apollo 18. If anyone is familiar with that old found footage movie
so
from
bad.
6 or 7 years. Yeah, but the poster was like an alien footprint, and the tagline for the movie, like, I'll never forget, it like was embedded into my mind. It was find out why we never went back. And then I was like, well, why the hell didn't we go back?
No, because it was a waste.
But we did go back in November.
No, the reason. No.
I didn't know about that.
But
did we land?
Yes.
Where's the photos?
It's out. There's a documentary called For All Mankind.
And the reason we're not going back to this day is there's nothing for us to
There's nothing
gain.
there except some moon rocks people keep losing.
Or
There's not
Space
exactly.
Force already has it held down, and we don't know that they're going back.
No.
On the dark side of the moon.
No.
But keep this little nugget in the back of your head, okay? The broadcast of footage was like 3 hours long, right? And they were on the moon for a total of like 21 hours. That's a lot of time they were on the fucking moon.
It's
that
also
wasn't,
a lot of data
you know,
and footage.
It's
also a lot of information. A lot of stuff to
It's a lot of
broadcast.
fart burps.
Huh?
It's also a lot of information to broadcast. To like 21 hours is a lot more footage than 1 hour or 3 hours.
But what did they do
Yeah,
for 21
roughly 7
hours?
times more. But
Yeah, what did they do for 21 hours?
They took communion. They played golf. They
Did they really play
yeah,
golf?
what did
That
they do?
sounds like
Yeah,
a fun
exactly.
time.
That's
They played
what I'm talking
golf
about.
on the moon?
apparently they
That's
played golf
fucking
and Buzz Aldrin took
rad.
communion on
Yeah,
them.
on subsequent missions, they brought all kinds of dumb shit up to the moon.
Yeah.
They tried to play volleyball, but Buzz spiked it and it just kept going. So they canned it.
Wilson!
There are rumors that Buzz Aldrin had one of the greatest basketball junks of all time.
Well, I mean, Buzz Aldrin says all kinds of crazy shit about fucking aliens and seeing aliens on that trip. I mean, he says shit all the time. And I'm sure before he dies, shit's going to blow up.
I just remembered.
He goes to the MTV Movie Awards.
Yeah, because of the Moon Man. He just to keep them all in lockdown. He's got to keep the Moon Man on lockdown.
I just remember something really previously that I was trying to figure out, like, for this whole entire podcast. Danny, you brought something up earlier about like humans and why couldn't they brought like a filmmaker on the module and all that stuff. I just remembered a depiction of astronauts in the first mission to Mars or the moon. Sorry, where they had to piss themselves. Right, because there was nowhere to go on the whole way up, and eventually they equipped them literally with diapers because there was zero fucking room. They're like, "Hey, I have to go to the bathroom before we launch off." And you're not getting up. You're not fucking getting up. There's nowhere. We spent 15 hours getting you in there. We're not getting you out. Like there's zero to no room in this thing. I have a hard time believing that there would be any way we could. I'm gonna stop there. I went back 1,000 hours ago, and I just thought of that, and I asked that.
So then why was the module so small? Which is
Because
what I don't understand.
okay, Danny. You know how hard it is to throw a baseball 100 feet in the air.
Yeah.
Gravity comes back down. Imagine throwing that
100
thing,
meters? Yeah.
throwing that thing in the air, 1,000 feet, and then 2,000 feet, and then imagine that baseball is 50 to 100 tons. Imagine the only thing you have to propel it is thrusters, right? That have bleed off, and you have to get out of Earth's atmosphere. Like there are so many things that are so hard to do to get anything out of our atmosphere, let alone people, gear, metal of all things, and it's not doable. The more weight, the more money, the more risk, and that's just not something they were going to do.
Danny, remember The Martian? Like
I never saw The Martian.
What?
The one time I've seen a movie that Danny hasn't
The Martian
seen.
was so
I literally
good.
have not seen The Martian.
No, but in the end, he's on a Mars and he has to get out of the atmosphere. I mean, Mars
it's
doesn't really have an
so
atmosphere
fucking
anymore.
difficult.
But he literally takes everything out of the spaceship that is there. He takes all the windows out. He takes all the extra seats out. Like
and then he made potatoes out of it.
No, he didn't.
no, that was the end, Danny. That wasn't the beginning.
No,
That
what
wasn't the end.
Hannah's saying is that you had to take all the weight out because it's so hard to get yourself out of that atmosphere. And that's Mars. That's just Mars' atmosphere, which is way thinner than Earth.
Yeah, just picture the size of the module compared to the size of the rocket that it's on. It's literally just the tiny little tip.
Right.
I mean, my dad was not an astronaut, Johnny, so I have no
Well, my dad wasn't either,
What I'm trying to
technically,
understand
but
is
almost.
like if the footage was so crucial to proving we this quote unquote war, which is I don't understand this whole entire episode. I'm trying to figure out what the fuck did we win? What did we win in this?
Just
was it
bragging
literally
rights.
like,
bragging rights.
It was
it's
a
literally
childish
universal
game.
bragging rights.
Yeah, 'cause-
which is like this has to go down in history as the most expensive and highest budget bragging rights.
But like, what do you
in history?
think about schools? With a big we went to the moon in 1969. Like the
Oh my
everyone.
God, is
Well,
that
we don't need to
Stevens
know.
song?
We're not in the circle. Like we could have won something that we have no fucking clue.
Absolutely.
We could have initiated Space Force. We could have initiated Space Force right then and there.
We
All
could have
these
cured
other
cancer. We
missions
could have done
are a
a lot of things.
ruse to say, yeah, NASA exists. This is what we do. We're just going to take a couple trips to the moon, hit some golf balls on the moon, while in real life, there's some form, there's like this secret Space Force that's off doing real shit out in space. I don't know. That's a thought.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that
it gives
could
me
be a
the same
win.
thought because I want to know in like however 30, almost 40 years ago, we had this crucial achievement in science and blah blah blah. Like, where have we gone since then? Because that was a huge marker and accomplishment. And I hear so many people talk nowadays of like, what have we done since then in regards to space? I know we got our satellites up there. Elon's talking about going on Mars and populating, but I mean, he's going making flamethrowers now, so I don't understand.
What?
So what is America's next accomplishment in space?
There doesn't need to be one. I think that's the biggest thing is like there doesn't need to be a big, next big accomplishment. I think whatever was meant to happen happened, and the U.S. was the first on the moon with the flag and the this and the that and the blah 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 blah. But I think the only time that something actually has to happen next and we have to move forward, I think it has to be drastic. But I think as of now, we have the Curiosity rover that's rolling around and has been for years, and that's just fine.
Well, I agree. It has to be drastic.
Well, think about
that's it. It's dinosaurs.
Think about. I mean, we inevitably have to find another planet to jump onto and grow on. Like, we will run out of room on this planet eventually. That's inevitable.
Yeah.
So we have to find another planet as soon as possible to start figuring out how to do this shit. That's why they get to the moon. Maybe we can set up shop there so we don't have to get out of any atmosphere anymore. We can get stuff up to the fucking moon and then launch from there to do all these other different things.
Very valid, very valid.
And then we can at least try it. I guess if Mars is the best place to try this, and we try it there. We try and terraform that bitch. It's a no-brainer. We got to get on another planet eventually.
We're gonna do it. Especially once we get top 1 on iTunes list, we're
going to the moon.
We're going to the fucking moon. So, cool.
Yeah, it's all true.
Right on, dude. What a badass episode.
It's one of my favorite things to talk about. I love it.
You kept saying, like, this episode's going to be crazy. What is it? And I was like, what the fuck could it be? And
I love it
I thought
much.
it was about to be the Blair Witch Project. I'm glad it was.
You're like, we're going to do this. Spend a whole episode talking about Blair Witch. The movie was fake as fuck. It's like, yeah, no, I get it.
Oh, crazy, man.
Well, Danny, you got to watch The Shining, dude.
Yeah, I know.
Space.
I gotta watch Shawshank Redemption.
Space is the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement.
Well, when you do finally watch The Shining, just notice after Danny sees these sweet tits in this bathroom, he leaves this bathroom and he cannot speak, and that's a metaphor for the astronauts not being able to talk about the truth of what they saw in room 237, i.e. the moon.
Taylor. Okay.
Got a hypothetical you want us to talk about or a thought you'd like to share about today's episode? Good news! You can shoot us an email at hybrothoughts@gmail.com. That's hybrothoughts@gmail.com. Would love to hear from you. Love to talk to you. And who knows, maybe your hypothetical will be featured on the next week.
Or maybe you'll be on the podcast.
Maybe you'll be on the podcast. Also, make sure to head over to the Facebooks to give us a like at facebook.com/hybrothetical thinking for more content throughout the week. We have so much cool stuff we're working on. We're excited.
YouTube.
Instagram, we're Hybrothetical Thinking.
Google
YouTube,
Play.
we're on Google Play now.
Patreon.
And then, shut the fuck up, Johnny.
Sorry, man. You go.
You're killing me, Smalls. We're on Patreon.
Yes.
We are on Patreon. The link is live. We haven't posted it just yet, but we are tweaking a few things. But we will be live on Patreon when this podcast goes live. Check it out. We're constantly changing, updating. We're new to that whole system.
I'm so excited.
I'm excited. Guys, every dollar you contribute, every $5, whatever it is, we want to make sure that whatever you're getting from us monthly is something that's worth your time and ours. Also, we want to make cool shit, but cool shit costs money. So the more that you guys contribute, the more cool shit we can make together. And we have some really, really
cool prizes,
cool stuff that we're working on, that we have in the pipeline that we just need some funds for.
No matter how many times people say, I'm going to pay you $1,000 to get Johnny off the podcast, I'm not fucking leaving.
Now he'll leave $1,200.
That's actually not a bad price.
It's not. It'll all go to you.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding. It'll go to us.
Fuck.
I paid $3,000 to be on the podcast tonight, and I can tell you right now, it was pretty worth it.
You didn't even get to be in the same room as us, but you know what? It's worth it.
They did put me in a closet down the street,
but make sure, guys, on iTunes as well, if you guys don't mind, make sure to find that 5th star up there. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Make sure to click that 5th star. The more 5 stars we get, the closer we get to that top spot on iTunes. And then when we hit it, we're just going to stop. We're going to give up.
Stop, drop, and roll.
Because, I don't know where I'm going to go with that.
We're going to get stop, drop, and roll because we're going to be on flames going as a rocket man through the universe because we're going to be exploring the next Earth.
We are going to be the rocket man. Well, you know what, Taylor?
What?
You're my bud.
Oh, hi, okay. Hey, bud.
Look, am I here, bud?
You're my bud, too.
Can I say one thing?
So go ahead, Danny.
By the time this episode airs on Monday, Hannah will be getting on a flight back to Germany on Tuesday. So if anyone listening to this could just wish Hannah safe flight and that we can see each other very soon because it will be tough for the both of us.
We're opening a new part of our Patreon.
If you want to follow me on Instagram, I'm at Danny Cops. Come shoot me a like, shoot me a comment, share some of my posts.
Just tore her down. Hannah?
Why do you have to make me so sad?
Oh, Hannah, you got anything to say?
No, I'm in a mood now.
Oh, well, we're gonna miss you guys.
Our Patreon
Thanks,
account
Danny.
is dedicated to Hannah coming back to America.
Oh my god!
Yeah, we're gonna open a whole new part of a new prize level on Patreon. It's just basically to get them back here to just paying for their flight. That's it.
Awesome.
It's one fee.
Please go to the Patreon.
well,
make that
we
happen.
need you guys.
That means I don't have to get a job.
Well, I love you guys.
I love all you guys.
Well,
I love you.
I guess till the next episode, I have been Johnny.
No, you started that?
Yeah, I was to start that. Well, how would we do this? Is it going to be me, Danny, Taylor? Hannah, how about you start it?
You
We
start
should have
it.
Hannah start it.
Hannah, start it.
Hannah started in German.
Oh, shit.
Danke fürs Zuhören. Ich bin Hannah.
Ich bin Danny.
Ich bin Nick.
Ich bin Taylor.
Ich bin Johnny.
Guten Tag, everybody.
Guten Tag.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Und eine gute Nacht.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Drive.
Tschüssi.
Am meisten Scheiße.